OShaquie Foster versus Abraham Nova. 12 rounds for Foster's WBC junior lightweight title. I'm looking forward to this one. I think it's going to be a very exciting fight. I'm expecting the best from both men. I like both of these guys, and I can see different ways of both of these guys winning fights against each other. Let's get into it. Let's start with the champ, OShaquie Foster. 23 wins, 2 losses, 12 wins by way of knockout. We've covered OShaquie Foster a couple times on the channel already. I went against him when he fought Rey Vargas and went with him when he fought Rocky Hernandez. We know Foster has skill. We know he's quick. We know he's a very good technical boxer. Against Vargas, that showed completely, right? I thought he fought like a near perfect fight. Like he was just on that night. In every category, he looked levels above Rey Vargas. And of course, we know Rey Vargas was a champion. Is a champion at 126, and he was coming off a fight against Mark Magsayo as an opportunity for him to try to fight for a title at 130. So we know he had to take it, and he was trying to take that belt. But that fight, it looked like those two were levels different in that fight. OShaquie Foster looked amazing in that fight. Foster had to fight his whole career to get to this point. He suffered 2 losses earlier in his career. And sometimes you suffer losses and you get written off, and people don't take you as serious, and management doesn't really want to take a risk on you because you've already got losses on your resume. So he's had to fight his way back to get to this point, which means he's mentally strong. After he fought Vargas, he defended his belt against Eduardo Rocky Hernandez in Mexico. And as I was breaking down that fight, man, a lot of you were saying, yo, Akeem, like, that's crazy, bro. Like, you got to understand that he's going down to Mexico to fight a guy who has got 31 knockouts in 34 fights. Like, he knocks people out, Akeem. That's what he does, right? And the ring is going to be smaller, Akeem. Like, I was hearing all of that, and I heard it so much, I was like, wait a minute. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. But once we put out the video, you know, we doubled down on it. So I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Even though the odds are against OShaquie Foster, like, I believe he sees the moment against Vargas, and he's not just going to relinquish the belt and his timing just like that. You're going to have to stop him to win that fight. And sure enough, as that fight started, man, that was a fight of the year. And for me, that was my knockout of the year because it was everything attached to it. But early in that fight, you could see Hernandez, man, was frustrating Foster, right? He just looks sometimes kind of out of it, like he's in the fight physically, but his mannerisms are showing frustration. The ref was letting Hernandez get away with a bunch of close range clinching shots in the back of the head, just some things that, you know, a ref should call. But you're not the home fighter. The home fighter is always going to get a little bit more of a leeway than the away fighter. But at the same time, you also got to credit Rocky Hernandez for the aggression and the pressure that was making OShaquie Foster a little bit uncomfortable. Foster isn't known to be a brawling type of guy or too much of a physical type of guy, even though he can bang on the inside a little bit. Every single round, we're not expecting us to see that of him. But he's a guy that likes to be on the outside, a guy that likes to box on the outside, control the range, uses his jab and slip in shots and counter and leading with the jab, but also getting out of range with his movement, his explosiveness and quickness. Hernandez never let him get too comfortable. He never let him get like that because he was right in front of his face, right? He never let Foster create too much separation. Hernandez never let Foster get too comfortable in the fight, right? He never let Foster get much space to create his offense on his terms, right? Hernandez did a great job of smothering Foster, changing angles, giving different variations of looks, and making it tough on Foster to be able to gain any type of momentum and get any type of groove. But Foster found a little bit of that in the 9th round, right? Hernandez looked like he was slowing down a little bit, and Foster was able to create a little bit of separation and really start to generate positive momentum and positive force using his jab, pushing that right hand through and boxing like how we are accustomed to seeing him. A little bit of separation can really make the difference for OShaquie Foster if you give it to him. But man, that 11th round, everything changed when Foster landed a counter shot that backed up Rocky Hernandez. Hernandez lost his feet. His feet were under him. He was leaning on the ropes. And that's when you could see Foster saying to himself, man, this is the opportunity right here. It is now or never. Right. And he put forth every ounce of energy that he had. And you, for a second there, he was on the corner. Hernandez was on the corner. And you're thinking to yourself, it's about to be over with. The ref is about to stop that fight. And I think, honestly, if it was anywhere else, that might have been a stoppage. But the ref was close to calling it. Right when he looked like he was about to come in, Hernandez landed a shot that pushed OShaquie Foster back. And now you're like, Foster had momentum, and then he lost it with one shot, right? And you're thinking to yourself, like the whole arena was going crazy. Stadium was going crazy because we felt like one guy had the momentum, then the other guy had the momentum, and then they both lost momentum, right? So that was probably one of the greatest rounds that I have seen of boxing in quite some time. That 11th round was an intense round, a magnificent round, and a testament of the heart and the will of both of these guys. In the 12th round, that's when the tiredness of Rocky Hernandez showed, and the determination of OShaquie Foster was brought even more to the light. Foster scored a knockdown, and you got the feeling that the knockdown wasn't going to be enough to solidify the fight. He had to do more. He had to stop it. And he knew it too. I think his corner knew it as well too. And he went out there, willed himself to get the stoppage. And he was able to capitalize and take advantage of a wounded and tired Rocky Hernandez. Foster did what many people did not think that he was going to be able to do. And that's to go down to his opponent's home country in a smaller ring and not just get the win, but get the stoppage win, because OShaquie Foster isn't known to be a big puncher like that. And he found a way to get it done. I thought Foster showed a tremendous amount of heart, determination, and courageous will. It was a great fight for him and a great moment that I'm sure he'll remember for the rest of his life, and it's left an imprint on us. That fight was an incredible fight and an incredible showing for OShaquie Foster. He might need to muster up a little bit of that against Abraham Nova, because Rocky Hernandez can punch, Nova can punch as well, and he has a lot to prove. Let's talk about him, Abraham Nova. 23 wins, 1 loss, 16 wins by way of knockout. Man, Nova is a cool dude, man. I got a good relationship with Nova. I got love for Nova, man. He knows I'm going to always keep it honest, though. I have to keep my personal bias out of this one, as I try my best to do. But he knows I'm always keeping honest. After he suffered his first loss against Robeisy Ramirez, man, we spoke a few weeks after the fight. I had him on my podcast, and I asked him, I said, man, what went wrong? How was the preparation leading up to the fight? Right? Because I believe that the preparation is a precursor to how the fight is going to go. If you have prepared really well, there's a good chance you're going to perform really well. If you aren't preparing the greatest, there's a good chance it's going to show in the ring. And when I asked him the question, man, he looked at me and he paused and he gave a smile and he praised Robeisy Ramirez. And then he said, bro, I should have pulled out of the fight because I wasn't right. But I couldn't pull out of the fight because there was so much already at stake and I couldn't let anyone down. He said he contracted COVID the week of the fight and it hit him bad to the point where he couldn't even really eat, couldn't even really drink. He was very dehydrated. He said something to me that stuck with me. He said, bro, like, it's boxing and we all get hit with punches. But every time Robeisy threw a jab, like, it was hurting me. And Robeisy isn't a big puncher like that, but every time he was throwing a jab, like, it was bothering me. And that's when I was just like, man, something is not right. Like, it's not good. I kind of knew it leading up to the fight, but I really got confirmation in the fight. He said, when have you known me in all of my fights to ever get hurt by a jab? Right? He said the better man won on the night, fair and square. But then he said, man, I'm not going down. I'm moving up in weight. So he moved up to 130, right? A weight that he says he feels comfortable at, a weight that he's not struggling to make, a weight that he feels his strongest at. After the Robeisy fight, he fought Adam Lopez, a solid and respected opponent because of his toughness and his grit. And I thought Nova came back and put forth a quality and efficient performance. I thought he looked quick, he looked strong, he looked powerful, and he looked accurate, right? Nova at his best isn't a guy that you want to have too many close range exchanges with because of what he can do. And when he lands a shot, there's a good chance that you might be on your back looking up, waiting for the ref to come and count you back up to 10, right? You don't want to have too many exchanges with Abraham Nova. Lopez is always going to take that risk. He's always going to press forward and try and steal the momentum. And he did that against Abraham Nova in the 5th round, and he got caught in that exchange, and he got the worst end of that fight. He got caught with a counter left hook that dropped him. Lopez has some moments of his own. Like, he landed some good shots on Nova, some clean flush shots, especially early in the fight. It kind of seemed like he was the one that was turning up the pressure a little bit. But to those shots, like, Nova took the shot. And once he took those shots, you got the sense that he was like, okay, like, I'm good, right? Because you got to understand as well, too, as we all know, I like that fight for Nova because it was going to be a good indication of where he was mentally when he was getting hit, right? We know how you lose a fight matters. And sometimes when you lose a fight and you get stopped, you're not really sure how you are going to respond in a fight when you get hit. Like, it's one thing to spar in training, but sparring is a controlled environment. Boxing is an uncontrolled environment when you're in the ring in real time. Because when you get hit, you have doubts. You have that PTSD because you remember, like, wait a minute, I got hit like this and I got dropped. But when you get hit and you don't go down, it builds that confidence. It builds that belief again. So that's why I like that fight for Nova, because Adam Lopez was going to test that chin. He was going to test that spirit, that belief. So the fact that how he was able to come out of that fight and looked very good coming off a loss, it showed us, man, that old Nova that we are accustomed to seeing before he lost is still right there, and there's much to improve on. In his most recent fight, he fought Jonathan Romero, man, the Colombian, who was a little bit older, but a guy who can still punch, right? Someone who still has good punching power, someone who's going to test Nova and make him fight. And man, Nova was on one that night. Like, he looked extremely dialed in and showed improvement in some areas, mainly how he set up his shots. The uppercut that landed beautifully in that 2nd round, man, that sequence of it, right? The jab to the left, that quick, subtle, feint jab to the left to get your opponent to focus on that left hand. And then you come through with that right uppercut, man, landed so cleanly, so beautifully, was set up so beautifully. Romero didn't even see it coming. And as we know, the shots that hurt the most are the ones that you do not see coming. I also like Nova's defense in that fight. He looked better as well. Nova has always been an accurate puncher to me, but it seems like he's added some more variations in his combinations offensively that I think will benefit him as well. He ended up stopping Romero in the next round after he dropped him in the 2nd. He dropped him in the 3rd and closed out the show. Beautifully cross-body right hand, man. So the power is real. It's not fluff. Like, if he connects with the shot, it could hurt OShaquie Foster. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Nova has in this fight. I haven't spoken to him about this fight by no means. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he looks like, how training camp has been going. So we're going to see how both of these men fare on the night. So who wins? I want to see both of these guys win. Honestly, Foster is going to be slick inside the ring. He's going to be looking to box on the outside and try and work towards his strengths. We saw him have a hard time when he was fighting off the back foot and the pressure was on him and he was getting smothered and he wasn't able to really get into his groove. He was uncomfortable. Not that he can't maneuver on the inside and still have success, because we saw he had some success against Rocky Hernandez on the inside, but that's not the fight that we want to see. That's not the fight that he wants to fight. It's a little bit tougher for him that way because Nova is a physical force. And he can punch, and he's athletic, and he's explosive enough to generate his offense, and his counter punches aren't light counters. Like, they're snappy, and he's countering you with bad intentions. You can see it on his face when he lets his hands go. He's trying to take you out. And I don't think if that's an exchange type of fight that Foster is going to win those exchanges. So Nova's going to have to find a way to slow up Foster. He's going to have to find a way to go to the body. He's going to have to find a way to cut off the ring, most importantly, because if he can't cut off the ring, it's going to be a long night because Foster's well-conditioned. He's a well-conditioned fighter. Not that Nova isn't, but man, we saw the type of pressure and duress that Foster was under against Hernandez, and he was the one that seemed like he caught a second win in that 11th and 12th round. I think OShaquie's a little bit quicker hand speed-wise as well, too, than Nova, right? I also wonder for OShaquie Foster is how much did the Rocky Hernandez fight take out of him? Right? Because that was an emotionally and physical draining fight. So we'll see how this fight unfolds, man. I can see you can make cases for both of these guys winning in their own respective way. I think it's a close fight and a fight that could go either way. As I said at the beginning, I got love for both guys. I don't know OShaquie personally. I know Nova personally. Always got love for Nova. I think if Nova is going to win this fight, I think he has to stop OShaquie Foster. I can see in a situation where OShaquie Foster is playing it a little bit safe and he is fighting on the outside and he's making Nova pay if Nova overcommits and extends himself and tries to force the fight. This is going to be a tactical fight at the beginning, and I think at the beginning we're going to see who's going to push the pace, who's going to be more defensive, who is going to be the one to control the fight. It's going to be interesting, man, but I think Nova has to stop OShaquie Foster because if Nova can't cut off the ring or has a hard time, if Foster isn't going to exchange, he's got the quickness and the boxing ability to be able to keep that distance and separation and just hide behind the jab and come in, slipping shots and get out of the way, right? So you have someone who is a big puncher who can punch, but he has to close the gap, but he has to get in range. You have someone who's a little bit slicker, a little bit more elusive, who's quick with his hands and can outbox his way to a victory, right? So gonna be interesting, man. The judges are always gonna favor the champion a little bit more. What are your thoughts on this fight? Who do you have winning this one? Let me know in the comment section below. If you'd like to support the channel, there's a couple ways that you can do so. You can like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to support by way of donation, you can find options in the description below. Also, my Cash App handle will be on screen as well. Any amount goes towards the growth of this channel. It will be greatly, greatly appreciated. Shout out to everybody that continues to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate each of you. Shout out to all the members holding down the membership section. I appreciate each of you as well. So with all that being said, if you've been watching the video, this time do me a favor and subscribe to the channel, and we'll definitely see you next time.